but no one made a move on her because of our bro code. I had indicated first that I liked her and wanted to date her so others could only fantasize about her. Gemma and I became friends, but she also became friends with Lincoln and my sister, Anna. The three of us hung out a lot, but after a few months, we started spending more time with each other. A year later, our friendship deepened, and I still hadn't asked her out even though I was fascinated with her. I didn't ask her out on a date because it didn't seem like she was into me. I didn't want to risk losing our friendship. One evening, we were having dinner at my place. I hadn't been with any other woman since I met her because she was the one my heart yearned for. And I had never felt this way about any woman. I looked into her eyes and realized I was in love with her. I couldn't help myself. I told her that I liked her and wanted us to be in a relationship. Shock flickered across her face, but she got over it quickly. She reached for my hands and hugged me. Gemma told me she liked me a lot, but as a friend, and she had never entertained romantic thoughts about us. This was the very thing I was afraid of, losing our friendship. My heart was broken, but I assured her we would still be friends, and nothing would change. Gemma said she wasn't ready to get into a relationship, and even if she were, it wouldn't be me. She hugged me, and before she left, she told me I was a wonderful person. 3 months later, I was in Lincoln's neighborhood and decided to check on him. It had been a while since I heard from him, and I wanted to know how he was doing. I pulled up in his driveway and knocked on his door, and it took him 5 minutes to open it. He wore a pair of shorts, and his upper body was bare, and he reeked of sweat and sex. I started to apologize for ruining his night, and then a familiar voice came from his bedroom, asking who it was. Lincoln took a deep breath, and guilt flashed in his eyes as he responded that it was me. Seconds later, Gemma emerged, wearing one of Lincoln's shirts, and her hair was disheveled. They told me they had been dating for 2 months, and I congratulated them. I forced myself to shut down my feelings for Gemma because she was my friend and was dating my best friend. I was happy for her, and we remained friends and continued to hang out. Seeing them being all lovey-dovey in front of me didn't make me feel anyway. I stopped playing for the local league as I had been promoted to CFO of my company, and my schedule had gotten busy. I couldn't hang out regularly with Gemma and Lincoln anymore because I had no time to socialize as I used to. My sister, Anna's boyfriend, proposed to her, and she started to plan her wedding. She asked Gemma to be one of her bridesmaids, which rekindled their friendship. Anna loved to throw parties, and every one of them she had, Gemma and Lincoln were there. We still joked and texted each other often, and on the days I could get away from work, I would attend one party or the other with them. Each time I saw Gemma, she looked prettier and happy. She'd give me a big hug, usually bigger than the one she had given me at a previous event. She'd ask me about work, and I'd do the same, and she'd tell me about her relationship with Lincoln. A few months after the last time we met, Lincoln and I were at a local pub when a woman came in and kissed him. I was surprised, and I couldn't hide my anger when he introduced the woman as his girlfriend. I left afterward and called Gemma to find out what was going on between her and Lincoln, and she told me they had broken up. When I told my sister, she wasn't surprised. She said Lincoln was abusive and had been hitting Gemma. Gemma had even gotten a restraining order against him, and she told me everyone knew and that it was messy. I didn't know anything was happening because I was busy with work. Anna told me Gemma took pictures of the bruises Lincoln inflicted on her, and I felt so sorry for her, but I was mad at myself for not knowing this earlier. She was my friend, and I should have protected her. I visited Lincoln at his home the next day and told him I was disappointed with him for what he did to Gemma. He didn't seem sorry, and he called me a puppy and said he knew I still had feelings for Gemma, and I was just jealous that she chose him and not me. I realized that talking to him wouldn't change anything, so I went to see Gemma instead and apologized for not being there for her as a friend. She told me she had gotten over everything that happened. She was seeing a therapist and recovering. I gave her a spare key to my condo and told her to drop by whenever she wanted. She told me she had been spending a lot of time with my sister, but since she was married, she felt like she was intruding on her privacy. I assured her my sister and her husband didn't mind her being around them, and I wouldn't. Gemma started visiting me often. Sometimes, she'd sleep over in my guest room, and when I had a party and had guests over, she would sleep in my bedroom while I slept on the sofa in the living room. She'd make dinner for us or get a good wine on her way to mine, and I'd cook dinner for us. As usual, we were drinking in the kitchen while playing cards when Gemma leaned over and brushed her lips against mine. I froze. I didn't see it coming, and secondly, I didn't feel anything when her lips touched mine. She tilted her head back when she saw the look on my face, and she started to gather her things to leave. I told her I'd drop her off, but she refused. The following day, I saw her because I didn't want her to feel bad about the kiss. I told her the wine we had the previous night was strong, and we laughed over it. However, she said she wanted to talk to me, and it was good that I stopped by. She held my hands and, with tears in her eyes, confessed her love for me. She told me she was in love with me and that she was sorry it had taken her this long to realize it. I didn't want to hurt her feelings, but I didn't have any romantic feelings for her anymore, as what I felt for her was more infatuation than love. I told her that she had just gotten out of a relationship, and she was still hurting and needed some time to heal. Gemma told me I didn't understand what she was trying to say and that she had been in love with me for years. She said she wasn't professing love for me to get back at Lincoln or use me as her rebound. She wanted us to be in a relationship and reminded me I had promised love to her a few years ago. I told her that I was fascinated with her, and I confused my feelings for love. She backed away from me, telling me I was hurt and she would do anything to prove her love for me. My heart softened. She was still my friend. I would have hugged her, but I didn't want her to think I was playing games with her. The pain in her eyes broke my heart, and as I made to leave, Gemma said she didn't believe me. She hugged me from behind and asked me not to punish her for the way she treated me in the past. I wasn't trying to punish her, but she wouldn't stop begging me. My sister was waiting for me when I got home. I suspected something was up, but she brought pizza and beer, and I'd never say no. She started casually, asking me if I had seen Gemma recently, and I immediately knew they had been talking about me. I asked her what was on her mind, and she said Gemma was my soulmate and I should give her a chance. I told her I had an interest in someone else, and she said Lincoln manipulated Gemma into getting into a relationship with her, and it was me she wanted all along. She asked me to give Gemma a chance, and once again, I told her I was interested in someone else. I didn't hear from Gemma for a week, and when I reached out to find out if she was okay, she texted me back that she didn't want to be friends with me anymore and that we should stay away from each other. My sister also stopped talking to me because she thought I wanted to punish Gemma for rejecting me when I first professed love to her. 2 weeks later, I had had enough of the cold treatment from the two women in my life. I went to my sister's house uninvited and stayed for dinner. Afterward, we sat on her porch, drinking wine, and I brought up the issue. I told Anna I genuinely didn't feel anything for Gemma anymore and only cared for her as a friend. After a long pause, Anna apologized for her behavior and said she was no longer interfering in my business. Although Gemma stopped talking to me, she'd stop by my place when I was at work. I could smell her on my sofa and sheet. She'd sleep in my bed and not make it. I asked her to come over to talk, but she didn't respond to my text. I asked Anna if Gemma had fallen on hard times because I didn't understand why she was sleeping in my bed and using my bathroom. But Anna hadn't heard from her either. A few days later, I was at a party and saw someone with Gemma's physique. When I turned around to have another look, the person left abruptly, and I knew it was her. I followed her and stopped her. I asked Gemma what she was doing there, and she said she had an invite. I walked her to the host and asked him if he knew Gemma, and he said no. We left the party together and went back to my place. She hugged me and said she had missed me so much. I told her that we needed to talk and we should begin with her stalking me. She broke down in tears and said she knew I was at the party because I made a social media post about it. She said she wasn't stalking me and just wanted to see me. She started to kiss me, and I let down my guard, not because I wanted her, but because I had too much to drink. We kissed briefly before I returned to my senses and told her to stay in the guest room. The following day, I made coffee and took it to her. We discussed the previous night, and I said I shouldn't have kissed her back. She said I was confused and that, with time, I would realize I loved her. I spoke to her softly, telling her that she needed to listen to me. I wasn't in love with her, and it was evident that she hadn't healed from her previous relationship. I told her I could help her. She looked me in the eyes and said she didn't need my help.